I don't even know where to begin with Cyberpunk 2077. It released broken, buggy, and lacking many features. It was considered one of the biggest failures in gaming right alongside No Man's Sky due to CD Projekt Red not delivering on the promises they made years ago. I obviously skipped over Cyberpunk because of these reasons and finally picked it up after many patches, the Phantom Liberty DLC, and I even picked it up on Switch 2 because, well, it's not much to play on Switch 2 right now. The Switch 2 port being the version I played will not change the overall experience, but I will discuss how it performed on Switch 2, as many people that covered this copy only played it for a short period of time versus me playing it for over 60 hours. There aren't many games like Cyberpunk, fusing the elements of Grand Theft Auto into an immersive story-driven RPG with a world that feels like hell, but not devoid of hope. How all these elements play together depends on the type of character you want V to be. You start by designing V, the main character, and choosing their origin story. Cyberpunk isn't like other RPGs where your sex or background doesn't matter. Certain options will not be available to you depending on your past. I went the way of the Nomad along with playing as a female V, as that was my preference. No matter your sex or life path, the beginning starts off basically the same. You meet up with Jackie, get into some trouble, then start your new life as a merc in Night City. Night City itself is a character and offers a life of luxury at the cost of your morals. Everyone who's anyone is playing dirty. If you want to be a legend here, you have to do the same. Your employers, aka fixers, will line you up with mostly questionable tasks. Thievery, murder, blackmail, any and all things are on the table if money is involved. The mission variety should be familiar to anyone that's played GTA, but CD Projekt Red not only made these missions feel more serious compared to GTA, but they actually took us back to the older Rockstar games which had more freedom in their missions. Most missions can be handled however you want. Going loud with guns blazing, use your hacking skills to crack into cameras to plan a more stealthy route, or you could even smooth talk your way out of trouble.
Hell, I'll even toss in some info as a friendly bonus. Militech's on to you. They're close.
Wait, what?
Do whatever it takes to get the job done. And you can always change your approach if things don't go as planned. I spent most of my time sneaking around, and admittedly, many of the main missions are set up in a way as if stealth was the intended way of play, so it wouldn't be surprising if most people play that way as well. Even so, side gigs don't come with much context. These work more like Radiant quests where wiping out a few thugs or stealing an item is all that matters. The way I played, I would play the main missions quietly when the mission called for it, but for side gigs, I would go in and empty my mag out. This was perfect for me as other RPGs that offer both quiet and loud combat also penalize you for blasting your way through them. Cyberpunk doesn't do this, and even if you decided to play one way more than the other, as a break, they give you clear moments to switch up your playstyle. CD Projekt Red did an amazing job with the feel of combat. Guns come in many styles and not one of them felt weak. Every gun has a kick to it that rivals even a dedicated online first-person shooter. Other first-person shooting RPGs skip over the fact that they are still games with guns. Investing into how guns look, sound, and feel can only make shootouts feel realistic. But there's always been a curse, if you will, that comes with blending shooting into RPGs. Headshots aren't guaranteed kills. I've seen many gamers over the years struggle with the RPG elements clashing with what they expect should happen in your common shooter. This isn't a personal issue, but for those that lose immersion over this, it's definitely a part of Cyberpunk's gameplay. However, if you get wrapped into the fictional world of Cyberpunk, surviving a bullet to the head shouldn't be a shocker to anyone.
Remember our first convo? Seems I've chosen the quiet life after all. No blaze of glory for me.
Speaking of RPGs, you have 5 attributes that shape how well V performs with certain weapons, how good they can use tech and hacking skills. You can also buff your physical strength, reflexes, and your cool. Inside each attribute are skill trees that can further your growth in any given attribute. And I have to hand it to CD Projekt Red that they didn't make any choice seem worthless. Of course, if you're like me and play like a ninja, sneaking around corners and busting out your katana when things get dicey, anything dealing with guns may not be relevant to you, but the way they spread out every skill can make you want to invest in all attributes, as every one of them has something beneficial to even the strictest role players. Cyberware are implants that can further your strengths that you build up with attributes, or what I like to do is to cover up my weakness with my cyberware. A cyber deck can be tricked out with hacking mods that can turn the tables in your favor. Attachments and mods can be placed on your favorite piece, adding new sights or a nice silencer. The attributes you invested in and your life path can open the doors for skill checks as well. Rather, there's a jammed door that can be pried open, or you need to use your persuasiveness to get what you want, skill checks will play a role in your journey, but I wish they did more with them. Oftentimes, V will have a few questions to ask that will provide more lore and understanding to the situation at hand. These normally have nothing to do with your skills. In the rare occurrences where a dialogue skill check is available, if you don't have enough points, not doing them doesn't seem to matter as much as other games, and some things won't even show up because if you don't have a certain life path, you just won't even know it's an available option. My nomad background really didn't do much in conversations when talking to the majority of the people from Night City. It would have been cool if people treated me more like an outcast because I'm not from the city anytime I use the nomad option, or if my nomad background could have introduced new quests. In the very beginning of the game, there's an option if you're a nomad to provide a service for a certain NPC, but they don't want to use it. So it almost seemed like a pointless choice. Out in the Badlands is where my fellow nomads roam, so my background came in handy there, but not in any real meaningful way. It may sound bad at first that your life path could lock you out of extra dialogue options, but ultimately they don't add much to the story anyway, which is the real problem. I do think that they're cool enough that it will give players a reason to choose a different life path when they replay the game, but I wish when it came to their skill checks, they were just more important. Even though I didn't find anything horrible about the RPG mechanics, I do think that they may have went overboard with options. Complaining about more options in a video game, especially an RPG, sounds insane, but when you can beat a game and rarely use certain mechanics, it's a chance that these mechanics could have used more work. I had to do research to figure out why certain clothing in this game had attributes and most of them don't. Well, that's because the game used to have stats on them, but now only a fraction of them do. Clothing being only cosmetic is perfectly fine for me, but if you aren't aware of the changes over the years to the game's mechanics, you'll be left puzzled as to why there are clothing slots that most of the time do nothing but take up space. I never once upgraded a gun in this game because you are always finding better guns. This goes for the legendary weapons as well, as a case could be made to level them up only, but Night City has more guns than people, and even the iconic weapons can easily get overshadowed by something generic. You may be unaware that Cyberpunk has crafting, and that's because it's mostly irrelevant. You will find thousands of components on dead bodies and in crates to craft guns, attachment, quick hacks, and ammo. Problem is, you will find all these things in the field, leaving crafting as a pointless option. If they would have balanced the drop rates and stats on gear, crafting and upgrades could have been an equal participant in the gameplay loop, but sadly they aren't. You also have multiple XP bars that can be overwhelming to grasp. Fighting, hacking, and completing missions can boost your overall level. As you level up, enemies get deadlier. Item drops will go from being commons to mostly tier 4 or 5, which is this game's purple and orange rarities. Stores will also offer higher end items, and of course, each level gives you points for V to upgrade. This is a pretty standard RPG leveling system, but then you have Street Cred. Street Cred is more like respect in, I guess, Saints Row. By completing side gigs, you get more Street Cred, which will give you discounts at stores with every 5th level. Hitting the max level 50 will give you a whopping 15% to all vendors, which sounds like next to nothing, but in a cold place like Night City, you're lucky if you get any breaks. Depending how you kill enemies and pass skill checks, you will level up special skills. I love when RPGs work this way. Being able to level up different stats simply by playing the way that I want to play has always been cool to me. It just makes sense. Plus, it's a good way to look back and see how I'm naturally drifting when it comes to the combat and the direction I'm going with dialogue choices. My issue is in the explanation of it all. It took me a while to understand why so many bars were moving up while I was playing. You can be overwhelmed with stats leveling up back to back and not even knowing why it's happening. It also doesn't help that in the menus, there are menus inside of menus inside of menus, and finding where everything is can be confusing. Now, the weirdest part when it comes to the RPG side of Cyberpunk is the scaling. Now, enemy scaling is something that's in a lot of RPGs. Some people don't like it, some people do. But Cyberpunk is the only game I've ever played that has skill check scaling. Yes, you heard me, skill check scaling, one of the weirdest design choices I've ever seen in an RPG. I played my fair share of RPGs and maybe I just missed the ones that do this, but it's a mechanic I'm not a fan of. Skill checks require a certain number of points in order to pass. Most games have these as locked numbers, so no matter how much you level up, it's going to be the same requirement no matter what. In this game though, the further you progress, the more it increases. So if you're like me and ran into an option that you can't do because you can't pass a skill check at the moment, you might think, well, I really want to make this decision. I can come back, grind a bit, and return. Depending on how much you need to level up to get the necessary points, however, they may have increased the check without you even being aware. The max point in any attribute is 20, and near the end of the game, you might as well say you just need max stats in a certain skill in order to pass a skill check. That's not all. The body section, which is basically your strength, I didn't invest much in, and you need this to rip doors open. In the early game, I had enough strength to do this, but by the late game, the same door that a weaker V could have opened, she can't do now being technically stronger. Again, I wouldn't put these hiccups in the bad category as they didn't really affect much, but I would say that they could use more work in a patch or in the sequel. People come to Night City to make a name for themselves. Riches are out for the taking, and you'll need something to spend all that money on. The economy is almost perfect in this game, and that's something a lot of games don't get well, handling how money works. Almost every crime game gives the player tons of money either too fast or they don't have much to spend it on once they get it. Cyberpunk has balanced out the money coming in and the money going out. Early on, your focus is just to get by, spending money on things like cyberware just to get jobs done faster. Once you work your way up the ladder, gigs will pay out more and your rep will lower prices. Spending money on cars, clothes, and homes is not only rewarding due to how cool they are, but I've never reached a point where money became a non-issue. 80 grand on cyberware or 100,000 on a new car. Choices I had to think over, unlike GTA where money quickly ends up as clutter on my HUD. I felt like I was really hustling in Night City, which feeds back into the world and story building of becoming a legend in the streets. If everything was affordable or money could auto-generate from a business like other games, it wouldn't feel as good to finally get that penthouse I've been saving for. There are some things they could have worked on though when it comes to the economy. Night City residents really love the Second Amendment, so everyone is packing iron, meaning weapon shots become pointless as there's always a gun to find, so why buy them? There are even drop boxes all around the city to sell any guns you don't want, or you can break them down for components. This is an issue in practically every RPG with massive weapon drops. Gun shops will need to carry exclusive weapons that are better than anything in the drop pool for them to be worth visiting. Even then, Cyberpunk on normal isn't a particularly difficult game, so more powerful weapons aren't all that interesting anyway. They would need to actually overhaul drop rates and the economy to make weapon vendors important. In fact, all vendors sorta suck. No need to buy meds or foods because you get health items all the time from fallen thugs. The junk shop is even worse because they serve no purpose, and these shops could have been made for you to buy trinkets for your apartment, as you can already lay certain things down when you get home. You can go to different clubs in this game, but there's really not much you can do in them. No drunk or drinking animations outside of a select few times. No buying sections or even meeting someone. All you get is a weird dance animation, and you might even see the game break in these places. Many missions take you to clubs around the city, and I don't think CD Projekt Red expected you to return to some of them. I went to a club ran by a gang called the Maelstrom, and after being a certain side quest, they weren't too happy to see me when I returned. The funny thing is they couldn't hurt me because clubs are flagged as non-combat zones. So things got weird really fast. GTA has made clubbing seem real over the years, and with nightlife being the heart and soul of Night City, I was hoping for more. CD Projekt Red really made a damn impressive world that I wanted to dive deeper in, but the more I look, the emptier it became. Player expression is handled really well as you can make V into whatever you want them to be. There are games with way more advanced character creation tools, but what we have here is fine. Clothes in this game have a futuristic 80s vibe, and you are bound to find something that fits your style. A huge slight to the game is that there is no third-person view outside of driving and looking at yourself in the menu. From a development standpoint, adding a third-person option isn't that simple if you want high-quality animations. Even on PC with mods, it looks bad because the game wasn't created with that in mind. But the bigger question is, why didn't they? In developer interviews, CD Projekt Red said they wanted to challenge themselves to make a different experience compared to The Witcher. They also wanted the player to feel like they were V, and the best way to do that is to play the game through their eyes. Till this day, people hope that CD Projekt Red finally gives them a third-person camera, and as nice as that would be, I'm actually in agreement with CD Projekt Red. I felt like I was the one that was in Night City. I was really V, instead of controlling some other character. The way NPCs get all up in your grill, rather it be for pain or pleasure, makes every moment feel intimate. I tip my hat off to them because I can't name a single FPS that has this level of immersion, and that is thanks to the first-person view. I would sit in skippable car rides because the first-person view made it feel real, while this same ride in third person would be me staring at the outer roof of the car. As for clothing, I get why people want to see V's threads, but in real life, we don't see our clothes unless we look down or in a mirror, and when you know, you can do that in this game. That may not seem like a big deal, but you'll be surprised how many FPS games do not implement a character model, so when you look down, you see basically nothing but the floor. Since you mostly see V's arms, it would have been nice to be able to buy a watch, some rings, or how about you just let me keep my sleeves down, CD Projekt Red? Even though I liked CD Projekt Red sticking to their vision, keeping most of the game in first person, there are some improvements I would love to see. Vehicle customization was something added after launch, and I appreciate the attempt, but it's pretty lackluster. I get why there's no part customization, but even with the color swapping, it's pretty half-baked. Some cars can change color, and you can do this anytime you feel like it, which is pretty cool. You can even scan other cars around the world and steal their paint job. Thing is, if your car by default has some kind of design on them, changing the color covers them up. I like the decals, so if a car has them, I'm less likely to change the colors on that car. Also, why can't we change the color of our guns? There's so many cool looking generic guns and swords that can be found, but you gotta just hope you find the color and patterns you want because you can't customize them on your own. In a city of sexual deviancy, you would think there aren't any meaningful relationships, but they're out there. You have a few romance options to choose from, but depending if V is male or female and the type of voice you choose for them, this lowers the maximum relationships from 4 to 2 at best and 1 at worst. Each character has their own storyline that you could follow, whether you plan on dating them or just remaining friends, and you should beat these as they do reward the player typically with a gun. You could tell that dating was an afterthought though, as even after securing your special someone, your options are pretty limited. They could come over your house and you could chill and talk, but hitting the town, grabbing some food, or hanging out in a club is a no-go. I dated Judy, and although she gave me access to her past, she just stares at this closed window like a serial killer. More than likely, this is just a bug, and I hope they fix this ASAP. Other than that, what you do get is limited but good. As you progress through the story, Judy would sometimes text me and I would update her on what I was doing. The texting system is low-key genius because I get more dialogue that feeds into the romance system while CD Projekt Red can do minimal work. The illusion of the texting system can be broken though, because one time Judy did tell me she hung out with her friends and got drunk and would send me a picture, but I never got them, which made me think again that this mechanic had a bug. But then every other text seemed to come through as promised. She would send me a gift, she introduced me to a grandmother, and even remembered my favorite pizza order. I would love to see updates where you could do more with your romance partner or even introduce more of them into the game. This is a solid upgrade from the romance gameplay of The Witcher. And for people who don't care for this type of stuff, it would be cool if you had maybe like a friend system, maybe even have them come along with you on missions, so even if you don't date a particular character, you could still hang out with them. Player expression wasn't without its issues, but overall, I really did get into it. I would dress V up in many different outfits and even change how I dressed depending upon the mission I was going on. Fixing what's already in the game is a must, but expanding on the systems that are already at play will only add to player retention. It would suck if we had to wait for Cyberpunk 2 to get some of these features, but I can only hope that CD Projekt Red is taking notes from the community. Cyberpunk is still a looker after all these years. Night City is beautiful in that corrupt and dirty kind of way. This is a mature game and you will see lots of violence, sex, and nudity. The streets, clubs, and buildings are all cluttered with trash, sex objects, and the appropriate items that you will find in these places, but over-exaggerated for this world. But just like any capitalist society, when you go to the upper class areas, things look way nicer, but the people are just as dirty. There's also the Badlands, which is outside of Night City, and it's more laid back and more down to earth, and the contrast between the two places makes you question why anyone would even live in Night City to begin with. Keeping everything first person makes you have to take in all the little details of the world that you might have missed if you were busy staring at your character's back the entire time in third person. Playing on Switch 2, I never felt that the game lacked in the visual department. The lighting and facial features were well done and the performance was mostly solid outside of a few instances. There is a racing side quest and the frames do take a hit here. My first try at the game, I was hit with a crash before the game could even save, so I had to remake my character all over again. And of course, every now and again, I would see a graphical bug here or there. The FPS never slowed down during combat, and it rarely did when I was driving. It just depends on where you are in the city. However, the Phantom Liberty DLC had me crashing a few times. There's some weird issue where getting in a car will tank the frame rate, but if you get out of the car then get right back in, it typically resolves the problem. Driving near the exit or entrance to Dogtown could cause a crash as well. And I'm pretty sure this has to do with the game trying to load in and out of Night City. I think the reason why Dogtown takes such a hit is because it's very big, very impressive, but it's very congested. It's not a whole lot of areas that they can use to block off loading. So the game has to load in a lot at once, and that's probably where the Switch 2 is having hiccups at. Outside of basic glitches and a few NPC behaviors that were odd, my experience wasn't bad at all. From when the game first released, I would say anyone still worried about technical issues should be good now. The game will look and run better on more powerful platforms, but for Switch 2 owners, you aren't getting a whack port. In fact, you get extra control options like mouse controls, gyro motion gestures, and of course, portable play. It's fun to mess around with the motion controls and the gyro aiming is great to adjust your aim before taking a shot. Motion gestures are okay, but coming from the Wii days, these just don't compare to how good that was. If you want to waggle to dodge and fight, be my guest, but after a while, it loses its appeal. Mouse controls work surprisingly well, but button placement will take time to get used to. As far as the mouse movement goes, it works just as a mouse should work, plus the surface you use doesn't screw up the sensor. So feel free to use your leg, your bed, a couch, or even a dedicated mouse pad. Now there is a problem I have with these controls in general. Cyberpunk uses a few buttons for multiple purposes. If you want to scan or gun butt, these are on the same button. Sometimes the game will have me hitting the air when I wanted to hack something. The down button on the D-pad answers the phone, changes mission objectives, opens the menu after leveling up, and navigates dialogue options. There have been times where I leveled up right when I got a phone call, and I was trying to answer the phone, but then it took me to the stats menu. Same thing while speaking to NPCs, this can also happen. You can level up in the middle of talking to them, and then next thing you know, you're in the menus instead of picking your dialogue choices. Another thing I don't like is how you can speak to multiple people in this game. The game never explains, or at least I never saw it explained, that if you look at a certain person's direction, it will give you different options. This also works for objects too. So basically the way it works is if you look at one person, then the dialogue options will flip to them. If you look to another person, it will look at them and then you'll get those options. Now you can still control this with the D-pad like I said, but this is where it gets confusing. If you happen to not know this exists and you happen to be looking in between multiple characters, the game will get confused and it won't know exactly who you're trying to speak to. So even if you use the D-pad to override it, then it still will go back to where you previously were. I thought my game was bugging out, but it was just that this is a weird mechanic that isn't explained properly. A minor issue in the long run, but it's an issue nonetheless. Now, since we're already talking about dialogue options, we might as well get into the story. I am so glad that I avoided spoilers over these years because Cyberpunk has a tale worth experiencing on your own. Anything that I leave out is to avoid spoiling the game for others. So if you're wondering why I don't explain some things, it's because I don't want anyone else to get spoiled. I know the game's old, but please people, in the comment section, try to avoid spoiling the game for other people. because if you like the story as much as I did, you would probably want people to also experience it on their own too. Things that were revealed prior to launch should be enough to get you up to speed. V, no matter what origin you pick, has teamed up with their friend Jackie to make it big in Night City. Doing dirty work for fame and cash is the only way to be someone in Night City. Anyone that's a decent person is probably scraping by and practically invisible to the world. The ambitions of Jackie and V lead them on a heist of a lifetime. But things never go as planned. You stole a biochip from one of the biggest corporations in Night City, and after taking a bullet to the head, you are brought back to life by that same chip you stole. One problem though, the chip contains the personality of Night City legend Johnny Silverhand, an egotistical narcissistic rocker boy who went out in a blaze of glory as a terrorist who dropped a nuke on Arasaka Towers. The chip is slowly killing you and trying to place Johnny in control of your body. Johnny wants to help you, but can you really trust him? The chip is from Arasaka, and let Johnny tell it, you can't trust a corp no matter what. V has a short amount of time to find a cure, and you'll meet many people that claim that they can help you, and it's up to V and Johnny to see if these people are full of it or their way out. Cyberpunk is a serious story of how the road to the top can lead to a short life. It's also about regret, how the love of money can hurt society as a whole, and it touches on a question that many people have asked themselves. What does it really mean to be alive, to be a person? I never forgot that Johnny technically is dead. My character V never really met Johnny. This Johnny is just a construct, which is simply data on a chip. But the delivery by Keanu Reeves makes him feel real. Johnny will speak to V and make suggestions. I kept questioning if Johnny lied about wanting to help me, or maybe he's just trying to lull me to sleep, making me think he's on my side, but really he wants control. The chip is taking over my body and placing Johnny in control whether Johnny wants it to or not. So then I had to question, is Johnny actually trying to help me like he says he is, and it's really just the chip attacking me? I was so paranoid playing this game with Johnny popping up like the Joker from Arkham Knight, and I loved every minute of it. Was I genuinely agreeing with Johnny's opinions? Or was that just the chip taking over my mind? Johnny opens up over the course of the game and wants you to willfully give him control at times. This was perfect, as about the time this happens, I was beginning to like him as a character, but again, I still couldn't trust him, especially now that he's asking for control. Even though he gave a legitimate reason why he should be in control for a moment, it still made me wonder. They even drop hints that Johnny is taking over V's mind, because in the menus, as you read descriptions on characters and mission objectives, it reads as if Johnny is relaying the information to V instead of V reading it herself. I knew I was losing it when I found Johnny's car, and it was the first car in the list instead of V's car, which is how it was the entire game. Is this another sign of Johnny taking control? Or am I just crazy and the car list is in alphabetical order and I'm just tripping? It really doesn't matter which part is the truth, because the fact that I was even questioning these things shows how invested I got into the game and how immersed I was into the story. The game plays on your sense of hope as well. You want V to survive, to make it out of this situation, and over time I also wanted Johnny to find peace and even be alongside me for the journey. Nothing ever goes the way you want it to in Night City, and hard decisions will be made. Johnny rubs off on V over the course of the game, and it only worked because of the excellent voice acting. You would expect as much when you have legends like Keanu and Idris, but everyone did an amazing job. Keanu and Idris didn't outshine anyone else because everyone was doing just as good as a job as they were. You know you have great voice actors when you like even the villains that are out to kill you. Why would Johnny even matter to me when he's technically an AI? The real Johnny died years ago, but this is why the writers and actors killed it, because my decisions on how I ended things made me feel like a total gonk. Cyberpunk has multiple endings, and I'm already starting a new playthrough just to see what the other options are. You can always reload a save and go for different endings as well, but sometimes it's good to get a fresh start to see things from a different perspective. Although the voice acting was top notch, I gotta admit that male V just didn't do it for me. Now look, I'm well aware of the male versus female V war going on the internet, and I'm not in that at all, trust me. But I will say that female V's voice actress just expressed more range of emotions than her male counterpart. Female V can sound tough, vulnerable, scared, and affectionate. Male V sounds like a crook, and that's excellent if you want to roleplay as one, but for the more sensitive moments, he just falls flat. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the street kid life path was the base of his line delivery and he never changed it up for moments that didn't call for gruffness, because that's what it kind of sounds like. Side characters also do a damn good job of feeling real as well. Most of the people you will converse with will be your fixers, and although your communication is mostly business, you can get a sense of what type of person they are over time. They're all bad people and will have you murdering, kidnapping, and stealing, but any good villain has a level of humanity to them. Which is why female V is more my speed, because V is as much as a piece of crap as everyone else is in Night City. She just has the vocal range to make me feel like I'm not a completely wicked person. I never played a game where every single person that you meet for the most part is a really bad person. I mean like really, really bad people in this game. Even you, your main character, is not good at all. And it never really changes at any point. You could argue that GTA does do this, but they always gave you like a greater evil to fight, making your deeds seem justified to take them down. Plus, those games are a lot sillier than Cyberpunk, so it doesn't hit the same. You are placed in the shoes of a criminal, in a world where being one is the way of life. Anyone clean will be crushed by the world, and all you can do is cope with the lie that Night City sold you. It's a depressing story that was fun to live through. You signed up to be a street legend, and it's up to you on how the story ends. Either way, legends always die in one sense or another. This isn't a story of redemption. It's a story about wanting what the world offers will only lead you to the path of destruction. And the good times that you had along the way really didn't mean anything at all, and you would trade anything to get them back. But you signed up for this life, and it's only one way out. What's the point of gaining the world if you're going to lose everything that ever mattered to you anyway? Phantom Liberty lives alongside the main story of Cyberpunk. V gets a call from a mysterious woman named Songbird to save the president in exchange for a cure. You manage to save the president, but Songbird goes missing. You have to team up with former agent Solomon Reed to find Songbird and uncover the conspiracy behind who attacked the president. Phantom Liberty is more of a spy drama than the typical crime drama of the base game. You get an insight of how the government handles terrorists and loose ends in this universe. And of course, it's normally with an offer you simply can't refuse. The story deals a lot with regret as Solomon questions his past decisions in the name of duty. The same country these soldiers fought for are no different than the crooks of Night City, selling you a dream of a better life if you become their hired gun. V's in it for a cure, but V grows an attachment to her new secret agent family, and as the new member of the family, is getting a crash course on all the family's dirty secrets. There are going to be a few hard choices to be made, and the whole time you're going to be wondering if anyone's playing you. But I gotta be real here. I could have missed something, but the big twist at the end sort of made the decision you have to make be as clear as day to me. I questioned if I made the right choice with the ending of the base game. But when it came to the ending choice of Phantom Liberty, I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing here, and I don't care. And I don't think it's because the DLC is shorter and you can't grow an attachment to these characters, because I would have to give it to them. In a short amount of time, I liked all the new characters I was introduced to, but like I said, the final decision made without spoiling it, it just was plain as day what I should do, and I don't question my choice. Because prior to the final decision of the DLC, I did ask myself, did I make the right choice? But once I got to the end, hey, look, it is what it is, man. Phantom Liberty also comes with a ton of new side quests, an all new skill tree with its own currency that you can earn from fighting your way through drops in Dogtown. There's a new car selling side gig that also leaks into the rest of Night City, and this simple side activity is one of my favorite new additions to the game. It's handled so well, I wish it would activate before you start Phantom Liberty. Outside of the hits to performance on Switch 2, Phantom Liberty is an outstanding DLC. They even added extra dialogue to your friends from the base game, asking you about the things happening in Dogtown, making the DLC feel like it's now a part of the main game instead of a side attraction. It's one of the few DLCs where I must replay it alongside the main game my next go around. Cyberpunk is one of those special games that only comes around once a generation. Now I know I haven't forgotten. The game came out a broken hot mess, but that's just not the Cyberpunk that I played. Just like No Man's Sky, I waited till everything was ironed out, and my viewpoint is that Cyberpunk is one of the best story-driven RPGs ever made. Even from the perspective of a crime game, it does things that even Rockstar should take notes from, and I hope they implement some of these features into GTA 6. The freedom to handle missions how I feel like it and not feeling like I'm on rails would be one thing I would love Rockstar to do. Fallout was my favorite first-person shooter RPG, but they ruined it with Fallout 4. Cyberpunk feels like what Bethesda tried to do with Fallout 4, and that itch that they created in my brain was finally scratched. Now, sure, you have The Outer Worlds, which I think is an excellent game in the first-person shooter RPG genre, but not as good as Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, just like Fallout 4, tried to blend standard first-person shooting controls and feel into a stat-based RPG with no compromises. Fallout basically dropped all its RPG elements to become Far Cry out, but Cyberpunk made shooting feel like Call of Duty and Battlefield with detailed gun animations, kickback, light destructible environments, while also keeping your stats important as an RPG should. A story and world that is so well crafted that you'll search high and low even after completing the game just to live in it longer. I couldn't put the game down, and I didn't want it to ever end, but I knew it had to. I have plenty of side quests to do and a few cars and apartments I still haven't bought, so I still got stuff to do. I can always replay the game as male V under a different life path, and I can also role play as a different V when it comes to my stats and abilities, and all this just adds to the replayability of Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk goes on sale on every platform pretty often. It just came out on Switch 2 and is unlikely to drop from its $70 price tag anytime soon. I could have always bought Cyberpunk cheaper elsewhere, but I don't regret buying it on Switch 2 because the game was worth every penny. I like this game so much I plan on double dipping and buying on PS5 for trophies and haptic feedback. I may be late to the party, but Cyberpunk is an amazing game that you should play. There is even an upcoming major patch that the devs are teasing, and maybe some of these things I wanted will be added. I'll let you know how good the patch is once it comes out. All you need to know is that Night City is worth a visit. Will you make it out alive? Will you die a legend? Will you lose everything to gain the world? Or will you end it all and just let it burn? Thank you all for listening to my review. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I hope this video was helpful for you. If you're looking forward to Cyberpunk, you still haven't gotten it, or you want to know a deeper opinion about the Switch 2 version, let me know if I helped you out. If you enjoy Cyberpunk, please don't spoil it for people in the comments. Let me know how you feel about the game. I can't believe it, man. It's such a great game. I enjoyed it so much. Of course, there were problems I talked about in the review, but overall, this is such a great game. I think everyone that loves RPGs, shooting games, if you're not too familiar with RPGs, I think this is a good game that could get you into them as well. That's another part I should have mentioned earlier, but the review is long enough, guys. We're going on almost 40 minutes. I just want to say thank you for listening. God bless. Keep gaming. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And by the way, if there's any other games that remind you guys of Cyberpunk, recommend them for me in the comments. I might want to try them out. Peace out. God bless. And keep gaming.